had no choice but to find assistance, still angered him. Iris was the only reason he was giving in. Her needs had to come before his pride, which is why he now found himself staring down at the petite, yet very shapely nanny. This is what he'd wanted, right? To be free from all the servants, the media, the people ready to step in and practically raise his child for him while thrusting her into the limelight. Hell, he'd even been running his own vacuum here. Among other domestic tasks like dusting and putting the trash out at the end of the driveway. His brother would die laughing if he saw Mikos wielding a dust mop. Colin. He had to keep thinking of himself as Colin now that he was in the United States. His middle name would help him blend in so much better. He was here to see who he was as a man, not a prince. To rediscover a piece of himself he was afraid he'd lost. He just wanted these next 6 months to be free of all things involving his royal status. He was tired of being home where pity shrouded the faces of everyone he came in contact with. Yes, he was a widower, but so many people didn't know he and his wife had been separated for months before her death. They'd had to keep putting up a good front for the sake of their reputations. Pretenses. That word pretty much summed him up. He wanted this freedom, wanted to see how he and Iris could live without being waited on hand and foot. He'd promised his brother, King Stefan, that he would only be in the United States for 6 months, the maximum time a member of the royal family could be away from the island for personal reasons. Then Colin would have to decide whether to renounce his title of Prince Mikos Colin Alexander of Galini Isle or return to the island and resume his royal duties. Colin was first in line to take over the throne if something ever happened to his brother. If he gave up his position, the crown would be passed to their oldest cousin, who'd rather chase skirts and make scandalous headlines than run a country. That fact had guilt coursing through Colin every time he thought about the situation. He'd temporarily lost his title when he'd married Karina, because she had been divorced once. Their land had archaic rules, but that was one he hadn't been about to fight. Now that his wife had passed on, he was thrust back into the royal limelight, whether he wanted to be there or not. And with his daughter being the next generation of royalty, that automatically made her a duchess. The entire situation was a complicated mess. Added to that, he faced years of ramifications if he chose to walk away from his title. Colin was determined to be a hands-on father. Being in a new country, still adjusting to this lifestyle, and trying to cope with this damn inconvenient handicap forced him to admit he might need just a bit of help. This short-term arrangement would give him good insight into whether or not he could fully care for Iris on his own, and if he and his baby should stay here. When Iris arched her back, screaming as if someone had taken her most prized possession, Darcy instantly reached for the girl. Without asking, the woman swiped away Iris's tears and gently lifted her from his arms. Now, Darcy said, patting Iris's back and lightly bouncing his 18-month-old. I'm not a fan of Monday mornings either. Colin crossed his arms over his chest as Darcy continued to speak in a calm, relaxing tone. Yeah, like that was going to work. Iris couldn't hear this woman for all the screaming. No way would Darcy's sweet, soft voice penetrate the power of a toddler's lungs. Darcy stroked a finger across Iris's damp cheeks again. Little by little she started to calm as this virtual stranger kept talking in the same soothing tone, never raising her voice to be louder than Iris. Colin watched as his daughter stared at the stranger. Within a minute or two, Iris had stopped fussing and was pulling Darcy's ponytail around. Strands of rich, silky hair instantly went to Iris's mouth as she sniffed, hiccuped, and finally settled herself. Oh no. He reached for the clump of hair that was serving as Iris's pacifier, but Darcy shifted her body away. She's fine, Darcy assured him in the same delicate voice she'd used moments ago to get Iris under control. Babies put everything in their mouths. I promise it's clean. Colin watched as Iris gripped the strands and